In this video, I want to turn my bark hut down the back bushland into a tin shack resembling something that might have been roughly constructed during the gold rush era of Australia. I aim to create something that can protect me from the elements with its own fireplace, learn some of the history of the tin shack, and camp out down the back bush. Galvanised iron sheets were first patented by Henry Palmer in 1829, and it wasn't long until this effective shelter building material was being brought into Australia. Being easily transportable and strong and light, it boomed in Australia during the 1850s, around about the time Australia's gold rush took place, and an influx of immigrants brought this valuable material with them. It became such commonplace for Australian dwellings that the local Indigenous people deemed it man-made bark, and towns popped up around resource-rich areas with the iconic tin roof being a feature of the buildings. Further out, in remote frontier parts of the colony, many tin shacks were created for rough living purposes. The ability to create something waterproof very quickly would have been appealing to the pioneers.
Now, before you watch this video, I'd just like to preface it by saying I'm not an expert in any way. I'm not a builder. Look, I've helped build some farm sheds in the past, but this is basically just me having a crack at it with the resources around me, much like many of the diggers might have done back in the day who didn't actually have building experiences. So yeah, look, if you actually want to build something to code, this is not the video to watch.
My aim is to whip up something rough that you might have found at a newly discovered gold digging site. And my first step is to tear down the bark on my hut. I've used this bark to create a traditional gunya shelter and sleep out by a fire during the winter. You can watch this build in a previous video on my channel.
So I have a bunch of tin that I'm going to use for the roofing, and I do have a bunch of wooden slates that I will use for the sides, and I want to build myself a beautiful fireplace and then camp out in it. So yeah, this is going to be a bit of an experimentation. Anyway, I'm going to go straight into it. Before I put the roofing on, I want to secure these rafters with wire, just in case the wind blows on it. We don't get a lot of wind down here, but yeah, I just want to secure those rafters. Now I've got a bunch of old tin here that I'm going to use, and it's really rusted. It's got a great rustic look to it. I'm going to have to cut these to size, so I'm going to start carrying these over to the shed. I brought these down with the tractor at the start of the winter so I wouldn't get bogged down here, and I'm going to cut them all to size and chuck them on. Alright, I'll show you what I got for nails. So modern day sheds and that, you'd have your screws, obviously you'd screw it down, but some roofing nails. Now, because these tin sheets were recycled ones and they were already being used, they already had holes where the screws have gone in, if you can see that there. Now fortunately, most of these lines, they do line up with the rafters I have in. There's only one line here that doesn't line up, so I'll have to think of a way to fill in those holes, but yeah, fortunately all the rest are going to line up, so I'll be sweet. Roofing nails all on, here and here. I've just chucked a bit of duct tape over those holes over there for now. But yeah, that roof feels sturdy, and that's going to hold off the rain for sure. Now it's onto the walls of this little shack. Alright, that'll do for today. Tin shack is starting to get there, starting to take shape. We're getting a bit of rain on Saturday, so I'll come down and check it and see if there's any leaks. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with that. G'day, Roo. See you later, Roo. Oh, it's a rainy day. I thought I might just go for a walk down to the hut and see how it's holding up, and if yeah, if there's any leaks on the roof. Oh. Oh, how good is that? The ground is dry. Obviously, except for what's leaking here. That's great. This would be really good in wet weather. The only issue is, if you come have a look at this, I cut this too short. So all that water's running off, so basically I'll just make a gutter that I'll attach here that's going to catch that and run it out that way. That'll be the best bet for that. Alright, well, g'day again everyone. It's been a while, it's been like 2 months since I've been down here. Just had a really wet, cold winter, and so the paddocks down here are really boggy. Haven't really come down here much at all. It still is winter, but it feels like an early spring. It's like the last week has just been beautiful weather. It's 20 degrees today, so look, I had the afternoon off and I thought, why not come down here and continue working on this little shack. It's a bit of a work in progress, but that's all right. It's on my property, so I can take my time to do it. So I think today I'm going to get some wood that I've got stored, and I might do these walls and start getting into it at least. I don't know how far I'll get to it, but yeah, going to give it a crack. That's what you get for working with tin.
Using a mixture of both recycled wood and tin sheets, over the next 2 days I built the walls of my shack, creating a sort of cosy environment. All of the materials being used here date back to shearing sheds used in the 1950s on this farm property, and it's great to share that connection with the farming history to build this little hut.
Alright, we're done. The outside of it's all done, so put up a bit of a gutter system so when it rains it'll won't go inside the hut but fall outside, if you have a look at that. Now I've put up the walling on this side. Unfortunately the wood got pretty poor quality towards the end there, very rotted, but these were the only long pieces I had left, and you go up to here and you know this is much more solid and denser wood and it's not rotted. Have a look inside. I've made 2 windows, and that's so this can eventually be a deer hideout as well. There's a lot of deer down there, so this is a good spot to just hang out with a gun and shoot into the bushes there and get yourself a samba. So looking at it from here, the last thing to do, I'm actually going to put a bit of a, I'm going to put a cover, probably an iron sheet about halfway. So I'll probably need to get another pole to put in the ground, and then an iron sheet, just so you know if there is a bit of rain and wind coming in from this way, you can tuck in behind there and be nice and cozy. And then obviously here we have a fireplace to build, so that'll be next. But yeah, it's definitely getting there. Alright, now I'm on to the last phase of this little build, which is to build a fireplace. Now, I had considered building a stone fireplace. We have a heap of granite, but it would have been a big effort just getting all that granite down here with the tractor, and then I figured that, you know, a nice stone fireplace is something you'd see in a homestead or something like that. You wouldn't really go through that much effort in a little whipped up shack like this to build this big stone fireplace. So what I'm going to do is, I've seen a style of building a fireplace with iron tin, which is basically a wooden frame on the outside and the tin on the inside. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give that a crack and see if I can make something like that. It's very boggy here at the moment, but because we've had a lot of rain, but let's see how we go, if we can finish this thing off. So I know I didn't really film much today. It was more about trying to get the concept of how I'm going to do it. It's getting late in the day and it's very wet and boggy here, so this week it's going to dry up a bit, so I might come back down here on the weekend, finish this off and finally camp in this thing and, yeah, test the fireplace out and everything. Alright, cue to next week. Alright, finally, it's been a few days in the making, but today is the day I'm going to get this thing finished. Going to have a fire in there, going to have a bit of a cook up and camp out in my tin shack. So I'm going to get this fireplace ready. The framing is all up, it's just about putting the tin on, gather some wood, split some wood, get a fire going and get a cook up going. So let's do this. And there's me rough fireplace from the inside. I reckon that's pretty good. Now I reckon last but not least, to add a little bit of character, let's hang up some antiques. An old rabbit trap. Let's go. An old horseshoe, drafting horseshoe from the paddock. Cool. Alright, so let's have a look at the finished product, the finished shack. That's the back of it. Got a little window there. I'm liking that fireplace. I actually think that turned out pretty good. Now the only thing with the fireplace is you're probably want to be careful about conduction heating. So when that iron gets really hot from a fire, the heat of that conducting through that onto the wood could be an issue, like in the summer. The main point of the fireplace is really going to do this, you know, in the winter when it's cold and when it's raining, otherwise you'll have a fire just out there. So I won't be too worried about that. Look at the entrance, that looks pretty cool. And then if we go inside, windows there, there's the fireplace ready to go. I've got the billy and the axe there. Beautiful, and a perfect spot to roll the swag out, and yeah, away we go. What I'll do to make it nice and easy, I'll just roll out the canvas swag with a woolen blanket in it, and that should be good to sleep in. Stringy bark, and this always makes a great tinder bundle to catch to catch a light with the flint and steel. Works good. I'm happy with that. Alright, I'm just going to let that fire burn for a bit down to some nice hot coals, because I want to do some cooking now. I want to cook up dinner and I want to do it over the coal. So for dinner, this is a juicy piece of rear hind quarter fallow deer for a pot roast. So it's a good chunky bit of meat. Look at that. That is fantastic. And how I'm going to attempt to cook this, I'm going to see how I'm going to go. Hopefully it works, but I'm going to attempt to cook this as like a bush oven style roast, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that in my new fireplace. But to go with that, I've got some onion and some potato as well, and a little bit of oil, as well as my antique billy, and this is going to be my oven, so I need some good coals. There we go, plenty of hot coals here. And what I might do is just brown up that meat just a little bit before I put it in the little billy camp oven. Put a touch of oil. They wouldn't have had salt shakers back in the day, that's for sure, but they would have had salt. So, and then my secret ingredient, a beer, just for a little bit of marinade on that thing. There we go. I'll drink the rest of that later. Not too much. Okay, take that out. I want to oil up my pot. A little bit of marinade in there. Chuck my roast into the oven with all the potatoes and mix that up like that. Pour some of that fat on there. Now this is the idea, to get it right in there. I'm going to let that sit there for a good hour, and the idea is to have a nice roast. Well, not much more to do but to just hang around and have a drink. Alright, so that's been roasting for about 2 hours now. I would think it should be ready now, all on the coals, so it's, you know, a slow kind of heat. Let's see if this deer is ready to eat. Ooh, looks pretty good. Cooked through or not? Oh, that actually looks, yeah, that looks really good. Alright, let's give this a taste. Oh man, that is so good. Well, that is genuinely, I'm happy with that. Yummy. Well, that honestly was a fantastic meal. It's just beautiful to be able to spend the night down here and whip up this little shack and just feel like you're a pioneer just for the night. And I'm just going to sit by the fire, I think, for a bit, and yeah, that'll be it, and I'll see you in the morning. So while that fire is getting warmed up, I'd like to show you something that was made for me. And this was made for me from my mate, so Tim Tillman. He's old man who lives in New Zealand. Made this up, and yeah, I really like it. So he does metalwork, obviously, but it is a way to be able to cook over the fire. And I have a bunch of different options. So I've got a hook. This is obviously, you can put a frying pan on there, and you just stick it in the ground, and away you go like that, and you can put your billy on there. And so this is obviously going to be perfect for cooking on the fire here, because I can stick right into the ground. So this will be its home, I reckon, in my little hut here. So as I drink my tea here outside my little shack with the fire going, and I listen to the birds, I can't help but think of what it would have been like for those men and women on the frontier who, you know, went out, and especially the gold diggers, and built these little shacks and lived in a little shack like this while they were trying to build their wealth and strike their fortune. And I guess it makes me think about how, you know, we live in a very prosperous country today, and we live quite comfortably. And you know, if you enjoy your house and you enjoy your society that you live in, and all the benefits that come with that, you've got to look back and you've got to give thanks to those original pioneers on the frontier. Because let's be honest, you know, if it wasn't for those diggers who came here and immigrated here, and all the people who helped build this country, yeah, that's what led to such a prosperous country, really. That pioneer spirit, that hard work and everything like that. So we really got to look back, and we've got to admire what was done. Now, the truth of it is that it also came at a cost. What we live in today and the blessings and the benefits that we have today came at a large cost, you know. First of all, you think of the Indigenous and the cost to them and their way of life and their culture and what was lost there. But not just them, you know, it came at a cost to the convicts. And, you know, look at how the Irish were treated in this country. They were basically slaves in a way. The cost to the diggers and the harsh life that they lived, and they up and left their home to come here and try to build a life for themselves, and ultimately ended up helping build the nation. And, you know, the immigrants like the Chinese, who were a big part of the diggings on the goldfield as well, and yeah, the hardships and the persecution that they faced as well. So, you know, our story is a story of hard work. It's a story of that pioneer spirit, but it's also a story of tragedy and loss, and yeah, things coming at a cost. So I just think that it's good for us to look at what we have today, to look at the prosperity we have in a country like Australia, and be thankful for the hard work that was done in the past that helped build the nation to where it is today. but also recognise the cost, and the cost that came to different groups of people and different groups of people in this nation. So just helps you, helps humble you, helps you be able to look back in the past and just be thankful for what we have today, I say.